Welcome to the Builder Hacks Podcast, your go-to destination for cutting-edge strategies, time-tested systems, and invaluable insights to revolutionize your construction business and elevate your life. Join your hosts, Nate Piper and Keith Meals, seasoned contractors who are not just in the trenches, but are also pioneering the future of the industry through Concord University. In each episode, we dive deep into the minds of the industry's most accomplished building professionals, uncovering their secrets to success and sharing actionable tips to help you thrive. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or just starting out, our goal is to empower you to build a brighter future for yourself and for America. Tune in, level up, and let's build a better tomorrow together. This is the Builder Hacks Podcast. Build your future, building America. There's huge opportunities for people to come in, but the biggest issue is the education. So the knowledge isn't going to be there. So like you recognize, hey, they get to that point after 5 to 7 years, you see them getting to that thing in their industry or their trade where they're running up against where the next leveling up point is. And you're able to help guide them. And there's fewer and fewer of those people in every trade or as company owners for building company owners and things like that, that they don't know and they won't have that person to recognize it. And that's where it's going to become challenging. So like right now is the ideal time for anyone to be getting, if you think you've got an interest, this is the time to be stepping into it. So it's what I literally preach to anybody that I can get a hold of that's younger.
I do too.
So all of Paige's friends. So I mean, like Paige is in the industry, her boyfriend's in the industry. He drives heavy equipment and stuff like that. So everyone I talk to, I'm like, if you want an opportunity, the biggest key, and this is where the challenge that I end up seeing happen, the biggest key is you've got to be willing to work. And everybody thinks, oh no, all right. So it's construction that you've got to work really hard in. So I'm going to break that myth. It doesn't matter what the hell you're doing. So you are going to work hard if you want to be good at it.
Yeah.
You know,
you got to have that
image that you're going to be that image that you're going to be the TikTok superstar or the YouTube superstar. Guess what? The people who actually make money doing that, it's no different than being an athlete. So you are such a small percentage of the overall people who ever undertake that, who ever reach that level. And the people who do put in a ton of effort. You'll see the flash in the pans that go poof and then right back down. So that's what ends up happening because they hit a couple of viral videos. They thought they were it. And then all of a sudden, all the views dropped off because they lost their attention of whoever it was. In this industry or in any business, the thing is, if you put the effort in and you master it, you'll always have a way to provide for yourself and your family, provide value to either your own business if you decide you want to go the entrepreneur route, or provide value to somebody else that you can work for, that they're always going to want you whenever you're that knowledgeable person.
Yeah.
But it takes effort.
It's one of the things that I told my in-laws when I was about to get married is, because they were concerned about me coming in and marrying their daughter. And, of
course,
he's the oldest and the first one to get. And it was one of those things I said, you'll never have to worry about me being unemployed or not having a way to bring in money to pay bills and take care of her, because my industry is bulletproof for lack of better words. Just from the standpoint, it's one of the oldest businesses ever to grace this planet, right? But it is also at a point where it's starting to dwindle because people are not, respecting it and they're not learning it and it's not coming back. But this was a business. Building is a business that's always been here and will always be here. And you can have as many digital platforms and what do they call that digital world where they build houses and AI and memes and all that stuff. And there will always be a place for digital stuff, but there'll always be a physical reality that people have to be in. And so once people start to connect those two dots, be like, look, we should actually learn this stuff, because at some point in time, I'm not going to be here anymore, right? My knowledge is going to go away. I'm trying to give away as much knowledge as I can so that other people can pick it up and it's not lost forever. I mean, that's going to be the sad part. So,
and that's, you brought up the great point. I mean, so Nate, how long do you think it's going to be until you start to really see that happening?
What would the
meaning that knowledge base is dropping out and the industry is really
it's already started. It's already started. We're 10 years in already of like people exiting and nobody backfilling and people not learning how to do it. So here's a I get to see the inside of a lot of things, right? what happens when a group of guys that have a skill set who are doing, production home building, which means they're going in and they're building the same house in a right down the street. Boom, 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 right? What happens when one of the trades that's building that house messes up or isn't taught properly or isn't trained? Guess what? He makes the same mistake in every single house, all the way down the road. And then guess what?
Yep.
Somebody's going to come in there and fix all that stuff, right? But what if they don't know what's wrong?
And if they notice it, if they notice it before it becomes a bigger issue down the line, because that's where part of the challenge, because what you're talking about for one trade cascades into every other trade.
Every other
trade behind them doesn't recognize that the framer messed this up and then does their stuff. So the only person that ever finds out then is the homeowner, because something happens when they're in the house.
Exactly. And so, and I'll just give you a prime example. There was a vendor that had a shower seat issue in their shower. But this happened in 400 homes consecutively all the way down the line, right? So that's 400 seats, 400 showers, 400 pieces of tile, walls, plumbing, glass. Like, there's a lot of trades that go into that. But that wouldn't have happened 30 years ago, because 30 years ago, there was a production line. Everybody knew their job. Everybody knew the guy's job next to them. Each trade knew each other's job, and it was a communication base. And
that part that you hit right there, Nate. And that's like one of the things that we see in the industry, because what you had before, like we talked a little earlier about, people you were cross-trained. You knew multiple different trades and multiple different pieces inside of that. So, if you're the person coming in behind the guy who set the tile seat or framed the tile or framed the seat up, if they did a framed seat and they did that, if the drywall guy comes in and the tile guy comes in, someone there would have recognized the issue before it went 400 deep. And would have said something, because they were concerned about the builder and the quality of the product. And that's where the challenge is now, is that everybody they're not trained at the same level.
Well, and I think it also comes back to the education system. I mean, it's a free education system. So you get what you get when you get free, right? And part of that too is that, like, everybody focuses on, and I've got kids that they're into sports, and everybody in my kids' groups are all like, hey, we're going to focus on one sport, right? You're going to either play basketball, or you're going to play football, or you're going to play baseball or volleyball or tennis or golf. Like, whatever the sport is, you're going to focus on that one, and that's the only one that you're going to play. When you and I were kids, we played every sport. Like, it was like, grab a stick, run outside, and then you even make up a sport or a game.
That's exactly it.
You played year round, whatever it was. It didn't matter if it was hockey during the winter or the summer. We'd go out there. If we didn't have ice, then we'd play street hockey.
You had the ball, and then you'd be whacking. Heck, we used to play on the street with the puck still. So
exactly. It's like, okay, but we had a different understanding of, like, let's gain more knowledge than just one field to go down. And so, and that's kind of where we're coming back to, is like, if this shower seat was done properly and it was sloped properly, the guy that came in behind him should have recognized it, but he didn't, because he doesn't have the knowledge. And so when we start talking about, where the industry's at today, the knowledge is fleeting. It's fleeting fast. And so what ends up happening is that you get some guys that are partially trained to do one thing, but they don't know what's next. They don't know what comes after them. They don't know all the pieces and how they work and how they connect. And so it's just sad to me, and I think it's moving at a rapid pace. And if guys don't start coming in soon, we're going to be, the guys that are in it are going to make a ton of money, and they're going to be working,
non-stop, 24/7. So it's going to come down.
And the guys that don't learn this knowledge and don't get into it are going to be paying a ton of money to be able to have somebody else come in and fix it. And so,
sooner or later, it'll actually force people. It'll force actually homeowners who have gotten relying on doing other things. It'll force them to start doing some of the things on their own. So it's always funny to watch cycles in humanity. Because that's literally what it'll turn into. Is sooner or later, it'll get to that point where we have a certain amount of people who will just get into doing that. They're like, hey, I'm just going to go ahead and do it, because I don't want to wait. I don't want to pay that kind of money. So, and if they see some of these guys coming in that don't seem to have the knowledge doing the work anyways, it's like, well, why the heck am I going to pay someone else to do that? If I don't have the knowledge, I'll do it myself. So,
well, and here's the funny part. They don't even want to buy a house now because they don't want to have to learn how to do this thing.
yeah,
So it'll be like,
exactly.
I'll rent forever and pay higher rents than anybody else. It's like,
Yeah,
I'm
let
like, what are we
someone
doing
else
here?
take care
What
of
are
it
we
all, so I
thinking?
don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
So, and it's funny because, like you said, you said it's already started. It started like 10 years ago, and I agree with you entirely. I mean, there's the numbers out there right now that they say it's the average age in construction is somewhere. You have some studies that say it's in its mid 40s. So, but you've got multiple other ones that say it's in its early 50s is where the average age in the industry is, and they're saying right now for every 100.
I think it's higher than that. I think it's higher than that.
I think
So my studies,
be.
in my studies, like you take your MEP trades, right? Your mechanical, your plumbing, your electrical, and you start looking at their average ages, right?
Yep.
58 for an average master plumber, 59 for an average electrician, master electrician, 53 for an HVAC master, right? Like so, we're up there in the 50s. Like they're at a point where they've got enough cash, enough savings in the bank that they can retire today. But the only reason that they can't retire is because people keep calling them, and people keep calling them because there's nobody else coming in. And so then what happens? They go into a point of like, well, if I actually have to do this job at my age, then I'm going to charge more than what I would have charged 5 years ago. And it has nothing to do with them, inflation. It has nothing to do with the economy. It has to do with them and their time and why they should keep moving, because it has to make sense for them.
Agree. Yeah, and I get it. That's literally economy. That's economics at scale is what happens. The demand is high enough, you'll have people to do it, but they're only going to do it for a certain price. And I look at those pieces. They're talking right now. Whenever out of every 100 people who retires out of the construction trades overall, there's only 7 people coming into the industry right now. I mean, that news right there is scary. So is what, because it's like there's no way this industry is going to be such challenged. Even if we got back to the point, like whenever you were in high school, Nate, I know whenever I was in high school, our high school had a VOTEC program.
Yeah.
So which there were building trades that were taught there. So you got the chance to actually, people who were interested in it got a chance to go ahead and actually explore it more while they were in high school to figure out whether they wanted to go that route and come out into a trade. So, or whether then they had the college prep route still. So the people who are interested in going to college went the college prep route. But they had that opportunity. I don't see that opportunity. And for a lot of the people at schools, like Paige, whenever she was in school, they didn't have that.
It's not there. It's not there.
No.
I don't know when they got rid of it. I think it's early 2000s. It's kind of when they were like, yeah, let's spend our money in other places, and let's not. Schools don't need this as a form of education. It doesn't really. Let's push them towards computer science and coding and things of that nature. We don't need them to do home economics. We don't need them to do woodcraft. We don't need them to do auto mechanics.
Actually, that's probably where you hit it right there, Nate. Like those classes like woodworking and metal shop and stuff, like all that's an electrical shop. I had all of that. Like whenever I was in 7th and 8th grade, you had to, as guys, those were your electives. So you got to take those.
Well, we wanted to be in
another one or two.
I wanted to be in that class. Like I was like, they forced me to go to home economics, and I still can't cook, right? And so I was running into like, put a tool in my hand, let me beat on some stuff, let me create some things, let me get this engine revved up, kind of pour gasoline right into the carburetor. Like these kids don't have any, and I say kids,
they don't even get the chance.
This younger generation never got to experience this, right? Like how to clean out a carburetor on a lawnmower, right? Like these are some things that there's some simple stuff, but these are the life skills that they should have been taught. They should have been taught how to do taxes. They should have been taught how to like balance budgets and pull these things out. And it's a disgrace what the education system has become based on what it should have been. And so,
well, and that key is, and it's all, you and I were talking about this earlier about, you were talking about one of the vendors that you work with. So, and whenever we were talking about it, you always have to look at this based on the person who is creating the training or that you're working with, and realize that the education system itself was created back in the late 1800s, early 1900s by all of the big companies because they wanted to train people to be good workers. So it was what they wanted to train them to be. And that was it. So, and then they morphed it as they went along, that like and at that point they were still teaching things like mechanics because you're working in factories. So they wanted you to know how to operate equipment and things like that.
Mechanical engineering.
Once you got older, yep. And once I got older and you started getting the computers and things came in, then it's everyone starts pushing towards the white collar side of things. And you want to go ahead and handle those, which are great jobs and definitely needed. At the same time, though, it was literally almost shunned for the things in blue collar. So you would, I mean, I remember being told, it's like, you don't want to go work in blue collar because you're never going to have a good life. So then we're going to have a good life is whenever you go to college, you get a degree, then that's how you make more money. And like whenever we went to school, back then college was, I would say it was affordable is what I would say. Cause right now it's, I mean, it's crazy stupid at this point is the way I look at that for the
it's
investment.
a waste. It's a wasted investment, you know, but.
And that's the challenge. Unless you're in something specific in college, like if you go down a medical route, so, or you're an attorney or an accountant, you have to have that specific knowledge. I get it. Then you've got to do it. But you look at the majority of the people in college, they're coming out with a degree that once they get out, even if they're in the industry that they went to school for, nothing's applying.
Well, here's the funny part about that is that the people that are getting degrees, this is where it kind of got interesting for me as I was kind of doing some research. The people that have degrees that actually make it to a degree, which that's a small percentage in itself because of a lot of other financial things that kind of come into place and schooling that they can't afford and debt that they take on and all the rest of the stuff. So they'll take on 2 years, 3 years of debt and then have it be paid on it, but they never get to the point of graduating, right? So they have to drop out early and then they never go into the field of which they want to be in. And that's all a cycle in itself. So that's uneducated debt that they're taking on. That's number one. Number two, the ones that actually get to a point where they graduate, 9 times out of 10, they don't even stay in the field of which they went to go to study for. Right? And then here's the other kick. Like most of them think getting a general studies degree is worth the $300,000 that they paid to get it. And it's like, you could have spent that time on YouTube and have a far further education than spending $300,000 for a general studies degree. Now, the thing that I do agree that they learn in college is a few things. One, I believe that understanding how to read and write and be able to speak and correlate between languages and things of that nature, that's a huge value. Being able to, see something through, that's another huge value. Like there's some values. Like I'm not going to say that there's no value.
Oh yeah, I mean college is it's not all bad.
No, and there's some life skills and everything else. I just think at the price in which they pay to have it is just ridiculous. And I think that they should be able to work things out and it should be at a cheaper rate so that they're actually getting something from it and they're not putting themselves into mass debt. But it is amazing to me that so many people can go through this process and be worse off than where they started. And then that's
the key.
That's the whole point. It's like, if you're going to be worse off than where you start, and you're starting out at a great spot, you're coming out of high school and you're moving into adulthood, and then you're going to put your adulthood on hold while you go to get this,
literally you're putting
degree.
It on hold.
You stop because you're not working because kids don't work these days. There's not like people are in high school or working at 16
I know I
like
worked
we
the whole
were.
time I was in college, but you're right, they don't work anymore.
They don't work in high school. They don't work in college because they got to focus on their studies. So they literally put their life on hold. They go through this cycle and then they come out the other side, 22, 23, 24, 25. And really they have no idea who they are, what they're about, or what they're going to do. And what they knew going in, like whatever morals and beliefs that they had going into college, has completely been changed and wrapped around and pushed out the back end. And now they have a different belief system and they're just lost. And for me, it's sad. I struggle with it.
Well, and I agree. I mean, to come out something like go through college, and I agree, there's definitely good parts to it. There were good parts for me whenever I went to school. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And college isn't for everybody. I mean, that's the first thing that I'll put out there. And the challenge is, if you come out like in today's, I don't know what the average is for college, but I know most of my friends who have kids that went to college, if the kids are paying for it, they're coming out with high 5 figures, low 6 figures media at least as far as the debt goes whenever they come out in student loans. And then you've got to pay that back. And then you're trying to get into, now you have to live real life. You're adulting now is what we call it at our house. You're adulting now. So you have a rent to pay somewhere. If you need a car for your job, you've got a car payment. So you've got all the expenses of clothing, food, utilities, all these things in life that, like you talked about before, high schools don't teach you all about that as far as the financial, actual realities of life. And whenever you come out with all that, you're so far behind that now you're that American dream that everyone has been sold of, this is what's possible. You're already behind the 8 ball. You're working really hard to get back to even. Whereas like right now, one of the best things that happened, like Paige, my stepdaughter, so she is 21 years old. She lives in an apartment with, or actually a house, so with her boyfriend. So she just bought her first new car on her own, so without any help from anybody. So, and they both make really good money so that they're able to start putting money away to go ahead and save for their first down payment on their first house. That's where the advantage, and then here's the other part. So like if you're talking about they go to school at college, so they go there for 4, 5, 6 years, whatever it may be, so that they're in school and then they come out. Well, if you look at it this way, Paige has already started. So she's going to be 4, 5, 6 years into an industry that she's going to have knowledge for. And with that knowledge now, that means she's also going to make more money than they're going to make coming out because she's actually, and we look at it as business owners. You have value to me as a business owner because you've got skills.
Exactly.
And when you've got skills, I will pay you more because you're going to be able to take on more.
That's it.
Is what it comes down to. And that's the part that so many people end up missing is that, you know, whenever you look at those pieces, I would love to actually run out those equations now. Because whenever I graduated, whenever you graduated from high school and went to college and stuff like that, the amount to go to college was so much less.
Oh yeah.
So I could see where the benefit is, but now with the amount of debt that they come out with, so it's like, do you ever get to that point? Certain professions, I guarantee you will.
Well, I'll tell you,
but
I know this.
That's where the challenge is.
I know this from firsthand experience because my wife went to college. She became a medical professional, and she accumulated a couple $100,000 in debt. Now, she's a rarity.
Today's medical professional, that's a little bit of money for a medical professional.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's it, right? but she went in. She became a physical therapist, which was a hard, drawn out process for her. And she came out and she started, you know, she got a job and been working for the hospital for the last 22 years. We are still finishing paying her college tuition loan. 22 years later.
That's it. That's 22 years later, Nate. Can you imagine how much they accumulate now in debt going to medical school?
Exactly.
I mean, it's crazy.
I love the fact that she is a healthcare professional. I love the fact that it was a calling that she was served to do. I love the fact that she's been able to do it. Like she took her degree and applied it to her life, right? Like, so in that aspect, I 100% support her in this, right? But she's 22 years in, and we're rounding the corner. Like next year, we should have all debt paid off, right? And we've gone round and round in circles about like, should we have paid it off 10 years ago or whatever? But it's all part of it. Like she gets a raise increase, you know, periodically with her job, and it covers that debt, right? The payments are small,
and most of the time with those debts, and this is a life lesson piece right here. Most of the time, that debt is at a relatively low interest rate.
Oh, it's low.
It doesn't make sense to pay that off before you go ahead and use the money in a different way where you'd have to incur or are incurring.
It's almost like free. It's almost like free interest rate cash, right? I mean, it's add up. And here's the other part that most people don't understand. It's like, all right, this is the money that she took out. And the money that she's paid back is more than what she took out, right? Like a lot of people don't understand that, but
which is a given. True. That's what happens with interest.
Yeah, I mean that's what the interest is.
That's how the bank makes its money.
Exactly, and that's why they're willing to lend it. And so, and it's like one of those things.
The funny thing that I look at with that part, Nate. And this is one thing, like as business owners, we analyze things on, is this a good risk if you're investing capital in something?
Yeah.
So like yesterday we were talking about, the amount of money we put into our marketing budgets and things like that. So, and it's always like, then we feel like that's a risk because you just never know how it's going to turn out. So, you hire the best person you can and put the money into it that they say it's going to take and keep your fingers crossed the stuff's going to show up the way they said it's going to show up. But when you look at this, like if I'm a business owner and someone comes to me and says, hey, invest in my business, and they're like, I need $120,000. So to go ahead and do that. If they've got zero experience in their industry, this is a brand new startup. This is basically an idea in their head, and they may or may not want to stick with it. And they may want to change industries 4 times in the next 4 years.
Yeah.
Am I going to give them 120 grand?
No.
Well, that's never going to happen. And that's literally what the government does for people going to college.
I know.
And that to me, and it's like you said, I mean, so many times they don't know what they want to do. And I get it. You're figuring that part out.
You're supposed to.
There's other options.
Yeah. They're supposed to go through this process of trying to figure it out. That's what life is. Life is like experiences and trying something and determining, do I like this? Do I not like this? Does this work for me? Does this not work for me? And I keep coming back to education as a problem because it really is. I mean, they're not taught to think about what's good for them. They're taught to think like, how do I memorize something that's better for somebody else?
An employer, someone other than you.